Welcome back to Truck Tech, everyone. It is a new week, and I'm really glad because I get an opportunity to take you back with me to Gothenburg, Sweden, where I was a guest of Volvo Trucks for a few days recently. I got to explore in some depth what Volvo calls CampX, and that's an internal accelerator, an incubator for some young companies. Volvo assigns champions to work with these startups, and in the 4 years since CampX launched, they have actually completed more than 70 projects in 4 countries. This is something that is the subject of my interview today with the head of CampX, Helene Nicholson, and that follows these headlines. We don't know all the details yet of the new 5-year agreement between the UAW and Mack Trucks, but we are starting to find out a few things. In addition to the fact that it's a year longer agreement than the previous 4-year agreement, we know that the union has agreed to a longer workday at the plant in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The workers will now work 8.5 hours instead of 8, and they'll get an extra half-hour pay, of course, which amounts to about $3,000 a year. Now, that comes before whatever new money they get in the master agreement. They'll be voting on Saturday on the ratification for that. But Mack benefits by getting to build up to 1,600 more trucks a year in its bid to increase market share. Even without the economics, Mack workers will get 10% more in progression raises. When you join the company, you go through a 6-year grow-in and you get a certain amount of money every year. Now, the 6th year of that grow-in will be $9.17 an hour. So pretty decent at that end. But as I say, contract ratification and more details probably will slip out before the weekend, but the vote will be this weekend. So orders for new Class 8 trucks hit their highest level of the year in September, with somewhere between 31,000 and 36,000 orders being placed. That depends on who you listen to. It could be either ACT Research or FTR Transportation Intelligence. They have different numbers, but directionally they're both seeing pretty good growth. This is because order boards now are open for the 2024 model year. And after working down the backlogs for the last few months, they need these orders to keep production up in 2024. Now, of course, the fleets can cancel these orders that they've placed right up until the time that the companies order material to build them. And so whether we're seeing optimism in the softening market or just fleets occupying build slots as a hedge kind of remains to be seen. Okay, so startups often have the best ideas to solve or avoid business problems. Volvo Group embraced that idea back in 2019 when it started CampX. As I said, during my recent visit to Sweden, I caught up with Helene Nicholson. She is the head of CampX, which operates in a renovated Volvo plant that dates to the late 1920s. We have an opportunity to spend a few moments with Helene Nicholson, who is the head of Volvo CampX. Now, CampX is sort of an internal incubator for startup companies run in 4 campuses or 4 parts of the Volvo Group operations. We're with Helene here in Gothenburg. Helene, great to see you.
Great to see you.
This is a fascinating subject, I think, in terms of, getting an opportunity to work with young companies, which is, the enthusiasm, of course, I'm sure is huge. But maybe you can tell us how CampX got started and what your goals are, what you're hoping to do.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. The CampX started 2019. It was inaugurated. And the task given to me was to set up something as a complementary to our very, very well-functioning big machine to industrialize and to commercialize, but to add to that a complementary way of working that is simple and quick, and that allows for us to bring in partners that we haven't been so used to working with before, and that would be the smaller ones, which is startups. So we targeted the startup community to get good win-win collaborations together with startups and us as a corporate.
I can remember in a previous life at General Motors when our R&D department worked with one of the incubators in San Francisco, and the company got access to some of the young talent that was coming out. Now, of course, you can't overburden these folks. They're very small. They don't have what we call runway, to do a lot. But you're able to still find out their capabilities. What are sort of the touch points or the key elements of CampX? When do you know that it's time that maybe they're ready to move on or move out? Or did they decide that?
No, it's actually the foundation. It's built on our internal expertise, our experts. We call them product business owners. So it's actually covering the entire Volvo Group, both R&D, which is of course key with technology to validate and test, but also business. So it's to accelerate business and technology innovation. So the foundation, product and business owners, they are the ones to, first of all, address and point out the challenges that they have. So real problems to solve. And then the team that I am representing, a small team, is orchestrating and making sure that we can find the best startup, or maybe two, to select one or two to compare, and then to bring them in. And that is the framework that we have developed. It's the ability to quickly bring them in. So very lean governance to take the decisions, but the product or the business owner is the one holding the flag. I want to do this. I have a problem. I have a challenge. I think that this startup can actually contribute to solving this. It can be a small question, but it can also be a larger one. Then we bring them in and we do a short validation project together with them. So it's a 10-week something sprint, a bit longer sometimes, very short. Then the product owner again takes the decision. What is the next step? But the aim for everything we do, it is really to launch to market in one way or another.
You have a place to send some of them, and I want you to talk to me about some of the so-called graduates, if you will. But with your venture capital arm, you actually have invested in more than one of these, haven't you, over time?
Yes.
Can you bring us up to?
Sure. So there are many ways to engage with the startups. Through CampX, what we provide is applications and experts, and that is the number one attractiveness to the startups. It's the people, the experts. They get to meet and discuss and find real applications for what they have, and also for someone who really understands the industry. And if lucky, you get into the big machine, or it becomes a venture of its own, or we invest in the company to bring them into our community. So there are many different ways to engage with the startups.
So the model has worked in such a way that you've been able to spread it, I believe, to Bangalore, to Greensboro, and I can't remember the fourth location.
It's in France, in Lyon.
France. Okay, in Lyon. And so you have a good model that's repeatable, I guess, and therefore you can do it in these places. Are you finding that your talent attraction feeds on itself? If, let's say, a company goes through, then they tell others, because the startup community is pretty tight as a rule, right?
Yep.
In the different countries, I would imagine. And so does this bring new folks to the door?
Oh, definitely. So it's many of the softer values as well. We need to attract as many talents. It's a huge, fierce competition for talents. And this is one way to show our talents out there that, there are different ways of working within a large corporation. There are many, many interesting ways to do things and to explore those. But it's also to become attractive to the startups who engage with us. And there we were I got a very, very clear directions from our CEO, Martin Lundstedt, and our CTO, who is the owner of the concept, Lars Stenqvist. It has to be fair, because we are big, we have a lot of in-house assets as legal, finance, invention, venture capital, the venture capital arm of Volvo Group. But it has to be fair to the startup. So with the legal department, it's been a true joy to work with them and set up these simplified contracts, but always taking both sides. So it has to be fair, it has to be a win-win agreement and collaboration. So sometimes with the startups, our legal department have to, guide them a bit, so that you don't give away too much, you don't give too much, it's a give and take.
So tell me one or two winners, if you will, or and I don't know if you do actual demo days, if that's a part of this or not, but tell me about a couple that have come out or have been picked up maybe on the big team, or providing something now to Volvo Group.
Sure, I'll be happy to. I can tell you a bit about first of the softer aspects that we have introduced, because it's easy to measure hard values, like how many have you done, how many have taken the next steps, etc., how many engagement we have had. And that is quite impressive numbers. So since we started 2020, we have had around 70 plus different projects with 70 different startups globally. And right now, as we speak, we have around 40 ongoing projects with 40 different startups on these different hubs that you mentioned. Gothenburg, Bangalore, Lyon, and Greensboro. But there is also a lot of softer aspects to this, like culture, how we change the culture in terms of collaboration and access to each other. So now we have started, you said open house, so we have sharing sessions digitally, but we also have now started open house, and we will actually have it here in collaboration with something called Gothenburg Tech Week. So we will invite externals and internals, of course.
And they will go through sort of a demo day type thing. These people come in and demo.
An open house, where we will present a few of the startups that we are collaborating with and give some concrete examples.
Helen, I want to understand sort of the programs and what areas you're trying to make advance for Volvo's good benefit and the rest of the industry.
We actually started with startups within the electromobility space. Okay. That's how we started. So what we did was to sit down with the ones responsible for the tech in electromobility. That's where we started. So the product owners within the R&D electromobility organization, battery electric area. That's where we started. So the product owners, they provided us with a list of their main challenges that they thought would be suitable for a startup to have a look at. Then we went out to our partners in the external innovation ecosystem, and we work with partners in Gothenburg, we work with them in Israel, etc., to help us find the best startups. And then back to the product owners, present, this is a startup, they are thinking about solving your challenge this way. Would you be interested in testing, exploring and validating that? And if they said yes, we built the case and we brought them in. So they could be here, they are always invited to be here, or work remotely. This happened in 2020, so it was just when COVID.
I was going to say, remote work at that time.
Yes.
What, after electromobility, where did you go? What were the next few?
The next field was to go for self-driving, so autonomous driving. And if the focus in electromobility, it was a lot about data. How can we figure out, we could see patterns, we could see for diagnostics, etc., use data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, ways to look at that. The main focus for self-driving was actually sensors and data, how to make use of. So a lot around software data, but also with self-driving, it was a lot around sensors. And there are many big decisions to take there. And they, in our applications, is usually very rough environments. So, it's mines, it's quarries, it's terminals, etc. So you need to have good hardware as well as software. And then we moved on, and it's actually now, I would say, the top area is really sustainability. So it's ways to try to replace different materials, and there are so many startups on this, but also a way to look at, how do we measure our CO2 footprint? How do we make sure that we can declare in a good way? We have so many data points. How do we come together and make good conclusions out of that?
So those are the three principal ones.
No, well, then there are more.
Right, okay.
But you asked for one,
Yeah,
and I will give you
okay,
one
go ahead, yeah.
that I think really shows the different strength of the programs we have in CampX. And they are behind us here. This is where everything started, the accelerator with the shorter proof of value projects, the sprints with the startups. This is demand driven. It's the product and business owner who provides the demand. We go outside, find the best startups, bring them in, short proof of value project, and then it's, integrated into a product. If it's a service, you can go straight to market, or one way or another, it's going to market where it doesn't happen.
Right.
So then we actually introduced this year the incubator. And the incubator is allowing for early stage startups to be invited into to our premises here, where we are today, to scale here. So these are quite mature because they need to be able to get Volvo as a client to the maturity level so they can have us as a client. These are early stage. Here, demand driven, this is opportunity driven. These are startups we believe in for the future. And then we have the venture builder, which is the program where we investigate, where we identify potential new revenue streams for the Volvo Group. So now we'll take an example that involves all the programs here. So we started with a demand from a product owner in our assembly plant, because there is a legal requirement coming 2025 in Europe that you have to declare your tire pressures, because it has such an impact on the fuel consumption and the emissions. So you have to do that, and that actually puts quite a big demand in the assembly plant, because you need to calibrate what tire is positioned where on each axle. So GTO, which is our assembly organization, were asking the R&D people, can you please look at this? Can we find a solution to make a quick calibration in the assembly plants so we will save some time? Good business case. So our R&D arm, Group Trucks Technology, have an entity called Vehicle Technology. They took it on and said, okay, let's try. But here we wanted to see if we could find a startup who could do the work, because that is the trick here. The startups are doing the work and testing it. So we found a startup, brought them in here, tech worked. Then we made another 2 proof of values to check, is there a business opportunity for this? Because there are many assembly plants out there who are now having to find out where the different tires are positioned on the vehicles. So what do we do with this now? And we found big value, but what should we do? There is a potential new revenue stream here for Volvo Group. So should we make a new entity within the Volvo Group to sell this, to develop it and sell it? Or should we sell it and develop it through our channels we have, our business units that we have, Volvo Trucks, for example, or the operational organization? And then after some thinking, the decision was to spin it up. So now it's a new venture. It's been almost a year ago. It was spun out. It's called Fyrkom, and Volvo Group is owning part of that company.
Through your venture arm, right?
No, actually it's a different, but
okay.
It doesn't matter how it's works. But we are having an ownership in that company, and that company is now invited into the incubator on its own,
So let me understand, Helen. It was actually a project that was validated a couple of times and then put into a plant. I guess here in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it comes back to the incubator to sort of grow there.
Yes.
Rather than the incubator being the first step, it's kind of the third step here.
It could be the first step. So, but as you can see, it can start anywhere here. But just as an example, this one started here.
Yeah.
Validated tech, validated the business potential. The business potential was, recognized and, decided what to do with it. It was decided to spin it out, but to keep part of it as close to our heart. And then now it's here in the incubator.
That's fascinating, and I'm thinking that as you do more of these, you get better at it. Obviously.
Oh, definitely.
Every time you've learned something, and you pass those learnings around to the other operations. I'm sure this has been great. Thank you so much for giving me a bit of a feel for this, or giving our audience a bit of a feel. And I guess I just wonder, when you measure success. The last question for you: when you measure success of this, what does it look like? What do you say as you sit down as a group and you say this was successful because
we generated value? It can be to the product owners who stands in front of a big tech decision. They can do some validation and testing here, or we have launched something to the market, which is the end target, of course, and we can tell that this has been pushed through the CampX flow together with many others, because this is a big collaboration engine. Or we value to society here, that we can help and really support startups to grow and scale under our roof. But that also helps our industry, because that's what we want. We want a lot of new innovations to our industry.
Got it. Thank you so much. Terrific to get an understanding of this, and great to be with you here in Gothenburg.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Helene. Volvo will show off some of the CampX startups it's working with at a demo day next Wednesday as part of Gothenburg Tech Week. Of course, you probably won't be there, but it will be interesting to see the kind of companies they bring forward. Again, they've got about 40 projects underway right now, so they'll show off a few of those. As for Truck Tech, we'll be back next week in our new time. Our scheduled guest is Jake Fields, the co-founder and chief technology officer at Platform Science. Platform Science has really been picking up a lot of business of late across the OEM scape, and we'll hear what's going on over there and how they are using their sort of combinator, if you will, to bring a lot of APIs into the tech space for connected vehicles. Now, you can catch all the episodes of Truck Tech, including this one, at FreightWaves channel, at the FreightWaves channel on YouTube. Go to the channel, click on shows, and then Truck Tech, and you'll see a full playlist there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.